All right, good morning, guys. Forgot in the last video, picked this up. I'll show you. I'm a sign guy. I picked these up really cheap off Temu Wish. This was only like $1. It was on sale. I like these little signs. Once I get my garage cleaned out, I'm going to start adding more of these. They're not really expensive. They're still tin and stuff like that. I'm a huge Fallout Bethesda guy. Probably my favorite game studio of all time. Pretty cool games, honestly. Can't wait for the Oblivion remaster. That's going to be pretty sweet. Today we're going to get into the Atari Jaguar. This reminds me of the Sega CD thing that came out. Competed with the 3DO, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis. It came out around that time. So there was really a lot of competition in the market. They did try to extend the lifespan of this console, much like Sega did by adding a CD thing. But again, it was not a huge library of games with this, and it didn't really help. And then around 1996, I think it was pretty much kaput for this. And like you're going to see in some of my other Atari videos, you could see the decline of Atari where they're trying to keep up and do whatever they could, but it's just not in the cards for them to compete with Nintendo. Also did market this as a 64-bit system. However, it only had two 32-bit buses, so it was a little bit disingenuous. It wasn't a true 64-bit system. Like the real 64-bit systems didn't come out until the N64 and the PS2, guys. A neat-looking console. Maybe it was ahead of its time. It's hard to tell, but it just was not a commercial success, and it is what it is, guys. So we're just going to jump right into the video and check out some BOLOs on this, because I know a lot of the games didn't sell well, so there should be some big money ones in here. First one up is Air Cars. As you can see in the top, they got $12.50 for that one. The middle one was complete in the box. They got $1,000 for that. And then the bottom one is also complete, and they got $1,100 for that. So they all got over $1,000 for these. They're all in really nice shape. It's a really rare cart. I've never heard of it or seen it. And honestly, it's very unlikely that you'll see these at yard sales and stuff. Maybe at a thrift store. Just didn't sell a lot, guys. So a lot of this stuff, it's just one of those things you might trip over by accident. Like I have done that a lot of times at yard sales and thrift stores. You're not expecting to find anything or a grail, but sometimes you do. And it really is, the more time you put into going out looking for this stuff, the more you will find. And you're not going to find a ton of it. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but you will find some stuff. Next up, we have Battlesphere. Again, a very expensive game. It's over $1,000. As you can see, all of these are complete in box. So the top one, they got $1,180. The middle one, $1,142. Bottom one, $1,100. So, you know, very good comps here. You know you're going to get between $1,100 and $1,200 on this if you have it complete. Neat looking game, kind of space stuff, right? None of this stuff was cutting edge at this time, especially it really was a 32-bit console still. So the graphics weren't going to be like crazy good, but they'd be pretty decent. Next up is a classic. It's been on pretty much every damn console you can ever think of. It's Doom. This one came out in 1994, guys. As you can see, not a hugely expensive title. This was probably one of the more common titles on the platform. The replacement box here is $74. The middle one, they've got $127. It says cartridge only. I'm assuming that's what it is. It's just a stock photo. And then the bottom one looks pretty complete here. $265. So that's probably the top end of this. I'm sure the box has some blemishes on it, but it looks like a decent example anyways. Yeah, so, you know, $250, $260 is probably the top end. And then if you find the cartridge, you know, you're probably going to be $125. Up is Double Dragon 5 Shadow Falls. So here's a graded one on the bottom. They got 43 bids on it. It went for $532. 9.6 A+ grade, which is really high for video games in their package anyways, guys. So that's a good price on that for being sealed for sure. Middle one, 48 cart only. And then the top is complete in box for $165. The box I can see has some fraying on the edges and stuff. So it has some blemishes. Even for your own collection, for a Jaguar game for $165 is not a bad price. I know a lot of collectors watch the channel, and some of the prices we chat about is absolutely astonishing for the games. And now that you have to pay more duties from the US to Canada and vice versa, maybe not necessarily more, but they're enforcing it more. The prices on these are just skyrocketing. So like for us Canadian buyers, the opportunity to buy stuff for a collection is a lot lower than it is for our American friends. So it just makes it more difficult when you're collecting, guys. But anyways, cool title. Timeless classic here, Double Dragon. Here's one with a real cool cover. It's Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. I love the cover art on this. It looks really cool. It reminds me of like the old comic book and stuff. Just, yeah, classic looking. The cart on the top, 286, and then 572 for new other on the bottom. So I'm assuming it's like new. It's probably been opened once or twice, and maybe they just slit the package open on the bottom or something. So if you find one brand new, it's probably going to be a little bit more than the 572, probably not a lot. Just keep an eye out. This is something that would be really cool to have in your own collection. Just the cover art is awesome on it. Next up, we have Gauntlet II. As you see in the cover, this is pretty neat. It looks like a dragon. I do like that in some of these games they put the picture of the actual gameplay on the front. Now you can see the cover art in these games are really awesome. The gameplay itself, you know, the graphics, it's just not there. It's not that great. However, cool cover. Top one, $400, cartridge in box, so probably not complete. And then another one, cartridge in box, $298, and then same on the bottom, $298. So if you have this complete, I'm sure it's probably going to be well over the 400. It's probably going to be 500, 600 bucks, guys. New in package, it could be way higher than that. It's really hard to say. Really cool title. The Gauntlet series has been on a few different platforms from what I recollect. So it's a well-known franchise. I don't see the value dipping on this one too much. The bottom one is Jag Zombies, and then we have Jag Zombies in the middle and Jag Zombies 2. I forget when these came out. It was quite a bit later than the console, I believe. It came out in 2018 and 2020, so really a newer game. But it goes to show you how much the homebrew stuff goes for. There's a huge collector base that loves collecting these. So again, just good values on this. If you see stuff that's branded Jaguar like this, but looks newer than it should, it's probably a homebrew game, and it's probably going to be worth a really good amount of money. So I suggest you grab it if you have the opportunity. Next up is Carts the Game. So on the bottom one, we have $250 for the cart only. Middle one is $370. They took an offer. It's complete. So, you know, probably $350, $325, what have you. And then the top one is also complete for around $325. So that's a good gauge for the price on this. The cart alone worth $250, guys. And then if you got her in the box, you're going to be looking at $325 probably, no matter what. Neat game. I don't know if this was like a knockoff of like the Mario Kart type stuff. I don't know, but it is what it is. Definitely looks cartoonish. Sometimes this stuff is worth a lot more than you would expect. Sorry, need a coffee. All right, next up we have Midnight Resistance. This was the only example I could find on eBay for solds. Looks like a cool military shooter platformer type game. Guys got the classic, you know, fatigues on and stuff like that. $572. So it's a very expensive game. It's probably quite rare, guys. Just keep an eye out for it. You want to make up BOLO lists? I would definitely go on eBay, check for the highest solds. You know, make yourself your own quick little BOLO reference list. And when you're at a yard sale, it's easier than pulling comps and stuff. You can literally just pop on, like, have them in files for different systems, and it's so easy just to pull them up. What we'll get into is the Primal Rage one here, guys. Just a classic title on this. We don't need to dive into it too much. I'm sure you've all heard of this game before. And then the bottom one is just a game lot. But I wanted to point out NBA Jam because it's such a fun game, and we had such a good time in the 90s when I was in school with it, and even now still. Now you can play it on the retro consoles and stuff and still make your friends mad. But when we were in high school, we used to get so mad at each other playing this. You get on fire and you could unlimited turbo bump the guy. And just really good time playing it at lunchtime down at the smoky pool halls and stuff. NBA Jam was just awesome. Next up is a franchise that's still going strong. It's Rayman. So the bottom one is $14 in one bid. It seems like they may have taken a shit kicking on that. I don't know, guys. And then the middle one is $429 pre-owned in the box with the red card. So that's pretty cool. And then $185 on the top. It looks like there might be 2 games there, so it might be... So it's dual copies, I'm assuming. So even for a card, I would assume to get around $90 for it. This guy that put this on bid, I absolutely took a shit kicking on it, which is a real shame. So just keep an eye out for Rayman. It's a big franchise. Next up, we have Copter II. The bottom one is $57 for the cart only, guys. $371 on the top in the box. Looks like a neat game. Again, you know how these are. The covers look way better than the game. So I'm assuming this might possibly be that have that flight simulator look where you're sitting in the cockpit and looking at the gauges and stuff. Hard to say. It's just an expensive title to grab out and about if you see it. Next up is a no-brainer, guys. It's Star Wars on the Jaguar. Now, I like this because it's the classic looking Star Wars fonts and stuff, and it's the classic design of like Vader and Luke and Han. It looks very much like the old posters from the 70s and early 80s. So I'm really glad they did this. This would be an awesome one I would put in my own collection. As you can see, complete on the bottom. As you can see, complete on the bottom, they got $300. And then another complete at 307, and then another complete at 427. It almost looks to me like this might be the same seller that had multiple copies. It's really hard to tell. But if they all are the same copy, the copy itself is in nice condition. It's really hard to tell. But this is a good gauge of what the game would go for. You know, anywhere from 300 to 4.25 is probably what you're going to expect depending on condition. As with anything, these older consoles, you see a Star Wars, you see a Mario, you see anything like that, you always want to grab it. It's a TMNT coin-op game. Anyone that grew up in the 80s and 90s that were playing arcade games at the time, this game was super fun. I remember it was 4-player. Like, we played the crap out of this in the arcades. It was such an awesome game. So a fan has made a port for this for the Jaguar. Really cool. I don't know how often you would actually see this. Thing that looks weird on this console, I would just always tell you to pick it up, and it will be worth money, guys. So this one went for $300 plus 18 shipping. Really cool. I love this stuff. I don't mind repro stuff like this at all. I think it gives more opportunity to people that like to collect the stuff to actually get the stuff. And I know this is still expensive, but the older stuff, the big fish are hoarding all this stuff now, and it's really driven the price up on everything, and it's absolutely crappy when you're trying to collect, and I definitely see it from that side. Mostly a collector myself, and it does suck. Next up is Ultra Vortex. As you can see on the bottom, they got one bid and got $60 for it. And then on the top, they got $450 for it. Now, the top version is from Australia. I would assume it's the PAL version. I'm pretty positive it is. So I'm not too sure if the guy on the bottom just got lowballed for the US version or it's actually worth much less. I don't know. I would assume if the PAL one's worth $450, then the bottom one should have been worth more than that. But again, when you put something on a bid, it's always rolling the dice on this sort of thing, so just be careful. I am Zuul. The last one is Zuul 2, guys. As you can see in the bottom, they got $85 with the box and manual. 57 and then 128 brand new. Not a super expensive game, but a neat looking title. It's something that's attainable for you to add to your collection. Even at 128 brand new is pretty cool to get a Jaguar game for that price. Honestly, getting any Jaguar game that's brand new for like $100 or so is a really good price. It's not a big selling console. The games were not big selling, so it's really hard to find them. And that's about it for the Jaguar, guys. As you can see, this console just was a wacky-ish looking design. Like, the controller was crazy. It has like the number pad on it for like a telephone. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what the deal was. I guess the main crux of it is you want to differentiate yourself from the competition, and they sort of did that. It looks like they almost designed this in mind to have a CD attachment to it, and they knew that was coming, obviously, by the look of the console. Usually when you're at that point where you're in the middle of stuff where you have to add an add-on to increase graphics and stuff, I would assume that the console's probably on its last legs and it would just be time to do something new. This also happened to Sega. I'm not too sure if anyone else did it. It's like you either got to go all in on the CD or you stick with the cart for another gen, and you go with that, right? Anyways, cool system. It's an expensive system to buy. I'm sure it's quite pricey in the box, guys. You never see these out and about unless you're at a real game store or something that has like decent high-end merchandise. So yeah, the odds of you finding this at a thrift store yard sale are very slim. If you do, count yourself lucky. Still a neat system. If I ever get the chance, I'm definitely going to get one for sure. And on that note, we'll call her quits on the old Jaguar. Too bad Atari couldn't keep going and making consoles, but it is what it is, guys, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. I hope everyone's having an awesome day. Peace.